We've got a Vikings kicking competition. Yes, indeed. The Vikings have signed a UDFA kicker, Gabe Brkic from Oklahoma. This guy is big, 6'3", 200 pounds, was 83% on field goals in college. So, Ron, kicker competition, who you got between Greg Joseph and Gabe Brkic?
So I do know kickers, it's not about being drafted. I think the biggest thing with kickers is just being able to make sure they have the confidence. Greg Joseph, we know he's made some big kicks. We know he was able to, after 2 years of just this weird kicking carousel, you go all the way back to, making a mistake on a kid in Daniel Carlson and cutting him too soon, in my opinion. Not being able to grow and comfort him and make him feel okay about some of his misses against the Packers. He goes on to the Las Vegas Raiders, and he's pretty good. Kid's good. Like, he went to the playoffs.
Really good.
So when you look at this competition, I think competition is key. You can never let anybody come into the building. I learned this early. I just saw another guy that I played with for the Ravens post this yesterday, and he said, and I forgot, one of our coaches used to say this all the time, but he's like, man, every day you got to earn your spot. You got to pay rent to be here, and rent is due. And every day he would say that rent is due. And so this is not one of those month-to-month sports where you can take your time and, have a bad day here, bad day there, have 29 bad days. And then on that 30th day, you're like, oh, hey, I found the money. Here's my rent money. It doesn't work in football like that. Like, this is a quick reaction. This is a gut reaction. Coaches don't have the holy grail of setting rosters. They go off of feel. They go off of when they're at practice, and we're all out there too for training camp, and we're watching the games in preseason. You got to go off of who looks good, who feels good. I mean, I've been in that locker room. I've been a coach. I remember watching Pierre Garçon versus Roy Hall. Roy Hall was out of Ohio State. 6'4", 230 pounds, just muscle bound, dude. And Roy was good. Roy did have some injury issues. I told Roy he should be a tight end because as big as he was, gain 20 more pounds, dude, and go play tight end. Well, Roy's injuries kind of took over for him. But you look at a kid out of Ohio State versus a kid out of Mount Union, everybody would assume, man, we got to go with the Ohio State guy because they also had Anthony Gonzalez out of Ohio State. And so it just seemed like Ohio State guys, yeah, let's take the pro guy. But Pierre Garçon, when you watched him, he fit. And so I think with the kickers, it's going to be the same thing. You got to watch who fits, who kind of makes the team feel comfortable when he's going out to make a kick. Do you feel that butterfly in your stomach every time he's – now, maybe it's just Minnesota kickers that everybody always feels butterflies with every single kick. But, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to have a competition. I think it's worth it. But I'm going to go with Greg Joseph just now just because we know he's been here. He knows the pressure of kicking an NFL game. But the one common – thread of this and the one equalizer, the one Denzel Washington in this is a new staff. So they don't know anybody. They don't know that the scouts know the kickers, but these coaches don't. So hey, it's anybody's game. And that's the only problem with Greg Joseph is this staff does not know him. They're going to know both kickers the same when they walk out in the field this year. It's going to be anybody's game. But I'm going to go Greg Joseph just because he's been here.
Yeah, Joseph was a tough evaluation last year because he hit some huge kicks and he missed some huge kicks. He missed a big one in the Panthers game, in the Cardinals game, in the Lions game. But he hit some big ones too. So I know he ended the season strongly, but I think there's room to improve from Joseph and find your next Harrison Butker or even, hey, the next Daniel Carlson. Find a kicker of that caliber. Maybe Brkic is the guy. Got to see him kick, see what his leg is like. But based on his size, I assume he's got one of those 60-yard legs. So I kind of like the rookie. We'll see how that goes. Todd McShay, in his fresh mock for the 2023 draft, Ron, has 5 quarterbacks being taken in the top 9. So if the Vikings want to find the successor to Kirk Cousins, do they need to get one of those 5? Does that mean they need to trade up and get in one of those spots next year?
No. So this is the thing. It could be a yes, but I'm going to go with no now just because every year these guys make these mocks. If you think about last year, they had the same thought going in early. They thought this was going to be a great year not great, sorry, but they thought here's the quarterbacks, because originally it was all those quarterbacks we talked about, Matt Corral, all these other, everybody was up there. Everybody was in the first round. And then as the draft process started, Malik Willis, he slowly dropped out of the first round. Matt Corral, he slowly dropped out of the first round. All these guys start going down and down. Kenny Pickett, somebody thought there was going to be a quarterback taken at number 2 at one point. They thought the Lions should get Malik Willis at 2. Like when after Malik Willis did that turnaround, padless, flip throw, 60 yards, everybody's like, oh my God, that's the best throw I've seen. Then another quarterback comes out, he flips his hips and jumps in the air and throws the ball 80 yards. Oh my God, that's the best throw I've seen. And then some smart person tweeted, these guys don't have anybody rushing at them. They don't have pads on. What are we cheering for? And slowly but surely, people went back down to earth. They start watching film. They start thinking about what teams need, and it changed. So that's what Todd McShay gets paid to do, is to do that, to make all these teams think the same thing. Who's going to tank for whoever? Who's going to tank for Trevor? Who's going to tank for this guy? No, I don't think they need to trade up to get there. Now, do they have the capital? If they had gotten another first round or like, that would have been the key. A first round pick from the Lions puts you probably in the top 5 next year. And that's why I think they should have tried to take the Lions 2023 pick to give them the 9th pick, or 12th pick, sorry. Or even a second rounder, because then you could package your 2 second rounders to get another first. I just don't know if they have the capital or will be worth it to jump up there. Again, unless there's the next Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning or whatever that group was, Phillip Rivers. Like, unless there's like a quote unquote, okay, this is a no miss talent, Trevor Lawrence type Heisman Trophy winner. I just don't know, because even the kid out of Alabama, like Mac Jones, is good, but I think that's the system. I think Tom Brady, he benefited from the system. So I just don't know if there's a quarterback right now. I mean, that's me right now. This is right after the season ended, looking at the guys coming back. I personally just don't see it. But yeah, no, I don't know. It's so hard. I mean, we have to see what Kirk Cousins looks like this year in this offense, because if he looks great in this offense, he's been healthy. He is getting older, though. There could be a better way to go about that. Whether it is trading for a guy like look at Tannehill from Miami to Tennessee. Miami got him early, did not work out for him, went to Tennessee. Now he's great. Maybe there's a guy out there like that. Maybe Malik Willis spends 2 years in Tennessee and comes to Minnesota. Maybe Desmond Ridder, spends a couple seasons and then he comes to Minnesota. Like, there are some guys out there that might fail. And then the Vikings, with Kevin O'Connell, turn him into a great quarterback. You just never know.
Yeah, it feels like the Vikings are going to be just good enough to be sort of on the outside of getting those elite quarterbacks. But if everyone's saying that this class is really loaded at quarterback and Kirk Cousins has an expiring contract, I would love to have the plan in place, the successor in place for that final year of Kirk's deal.
Right. Yeah.
But so much has to happen between now and then. We'll see where the Vikings are picking. I think that's probably the biggest part of this. So Twins manager Rocco Baldelli is out with COVID-19. He's replaced by assistant coach Jace Tingler on the bench. So here's what I'm thinking, Ron. Here's my question for you. What sport is most difficult for an assistant coach to step in and be the head coach for a day or for several days?
Selfishly, I'm going to go football. And this is the reason why. Most teams have an assistant head coach, so that person is already ready to step in. The problem with that sometimes, though, is that person is the defense or offensive coordinator. So now your week's duties where I got to get my offense or my defense ready to go. But in Kevin O'Connell's case, my thought, and I don't know, we'll have to see this, is that just like his former boss, Sean McVay, he's going to call the plays. Like, I think he wants this to be his offense. He's going to call the play. We see a lot more of that now with head coaches, Andy Reid, Sean McVay, Cliff Kingsbury, like these guys, Shanahan. These guys are calling their offenses. Belichick defense calls his defense. Zimmer called his defense. Coaches now, if their fingerprints on that thing, they're calling it. There's a lot of like Mike Tomlin, hands off. Tony Dungy, hands off. Bruce Arians, hands off. There's not too many CEOs. PJ Fleck, CEO, hands off. Kevin O'Connell, I think that would be tough for the assistant to come in, not only have to take his job over, but also call the plays. Now, we do know in football, though, just because you're on COVID protocols doesn't mean you can't have a headset and be wired in to the team. Now with ways to like get a coach into the stadium early, get him in his own suite, and put a headset on him in the suite so he can have his own suite and he can, help out from somewhere quarantined inside the stadium. I mean, I know there's ways around it now because of the relaxed rules, but I'd say football. I feel like basketball, like if you have LeBron's going to get it going. I just think there's so, like the Warriors. If Steve Kerr is out, they're going to get it going. Pop gets himself ejected on purpose sometimes just so he can let his assistant coach, he can go to the locker room and hang out. Like you can tell because he'll get ejected and smile at the camera because he's like, yeah, I'm done anyway. I'm out of here. Let me go out in a blazing glory. Baseball, I just don't see it. I don't see it being as tough. The managers are in the dugout anyway. You have your first base and third base coaches. So much going on in baseball. Hockey. I could see hockey, though, because of the line change and some of the decisions that have to be made. But again, it's the players on the ice making it. There's not a lot of play calling in hockey. It's more of just line changes, when to get guys in and out, who should be on what line. But again, with COVID, you can make those decisions anyway and give them the lineups. And then, from there, he has to then go do the in-game stuff, the challenges, whatever it might be. But I'm going to go football. There's too many moving parts in football for when the head coach is out. It's tough for the game because there's so much the challenges, the red flag, who's going to be, who's going to be in, who should be out. This guy's hurt. Do I play him? Do I not play him? So there's a lot that goes into that. I think football is the one.
I think you're right. I just think there's so many high leverage decisions in the course of a football game. Run or pass, go for it, don't go for it. Kick a field goal or punt. Like there's so many decisions like that, and that doesn't include adjustments you have to make schematically, challenge flags, clock management. Probably football. I think basketball's next because you got to look for those defensive matchups. You got to watch foul trouble. You got to challenge plays occasionally. I think basketball, then hockey, and then baseball is just so slow that you have enough time to process every decision kind of in your mind before it happens.
Right.
So that's probably the order I would go.